I'm kidding. I'm not singing Eminem on the show.
Shady's back.
Yeah, welcome, guys, to Draftutopia.
Kelsa.
This is a sneak preview of
Yeah,
season
she's
15, which will launch next week with the first episode of Draftutopia's stream on Rumble. We will be back on TalkShoe next week. But yeah, I just got back from road trip, crazy road trip. I was in Cincinnati on Wednesday. I would be at Bengals camp if we didn't do a detour today. So what happened is we went to the Reds on Wednesday. Thursday was a sports card show. Friday was a Cubs game. And then today, Colts camp. And it was a disaster. This is what William wants to get to. And this is what I'm going to spend most of the time talking about. I'll talk about Ohio State a little bit later. Then maybe I'll get into some group of 5 prospects for the 2026 draft in the last 20 minutes. But Colts, this was like a literal episode of Bar Rescue. First, you had the Colts, you had like copters, security, and they have to do that for safety purposes. The team has to do that for safety. Safety's number one. Okay. And then they had a Build-A-Bear workshop. I don't know what they had a Colts Build-A-Bear workshop, and you could get 4 different faces. I did not buy it. I just thought it was laughably absurd. I mean, the concept in theory isn't bad, William, but the choices for your Colts Build-A-Bear are Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, the blue Colts logo, or the Colts logo with Army Green on it. Like, this is like making a Ryan Grigson action figure Build-A-Bear. Come on. Come on. The execution here was that awful. I'm actually wondering if Ryan Grigson's taken over Build-A-Bear. That is how awful the execution was. Yeah, but in all seriousness, let's get to the football players. Richardson looked the fastest in warm-ups, but he was looking at the plays. He had his head down more frequently than the other quarterbacks. He began the day 1 for 6 with -2 rushing yards, with his only completion being a check down to Jonathan Taylor. Now, he did throw 2 touchdowns at the end of practice, but a very sloppy day for a quarterback getting the majority of the first-team reps. Do you remember a quarterback that sloppy in first-team reps in all your years of covering football, William?
No, but, when I did my evaluation for first-round mock with Daniel Kelly, I was just talking to Daniel before this, and we got into a conversation about AR. Anthony Richardson, because he was a good athlete here and a good athlete there, and he has a career average of like 53% completions. I mean, he looks like he doesn't know what's going on downfield. Like where his receivers are, like he's just playing that playground football, trying to find the open guy, and he's kind of, faked it until he made it with his athleticism. Kelly and I are actually still arguing on who, started that theory about him, who said it first, should I say. And I don't know, man. There are some good players on this team, and Daniel Jones comes over. Everybody's got, some kind of other point of view on him, that he's garbage, this, that, everything.
I mean, Daniel Jones had an okay day. He had 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Richardson and Jones each had 3 interceptions in practice today. Yeah. The only quarterback that didn't throw an interception was Riley Leonard, which is surprising to hear to a degree.
Well, I mean, that's also one thing that the defense is full of players.
To be fair, he's getting third-team reps. He's going against a third-team defense for most of his reps. To be fair to Riley Leonard, he's getting And Jason Bean didn't get any reps. And it wasn't just the fact that the Colts had the Build-A-Bear thing that annoyed me. At the beginning of the practice, I remember the PA announcer saying, look, the players and cheerleaders are going to do autographs, but it's going to be adults only. Children are not getting autographs. And then they decide, you know what, we're going to give everyone autographs, and they start autographing a bunch of footballs and throwing them in the air. And everyone was booing the mascot. because
That's
they
an
didn't want the
absolutely
mascot's autograph. And it's funny, me and another adult were competing for a ball, and his kid ended up with 2 Nelson autographs. So he gave me the ball that I lost out on out of pity. And look, it is a Tanner Bortolini autograph football. He was the backup center to Ryan Kelly last year, and with Ryan Kelly in Minnesota, Tanner Bortolini is now the Colts starting center this year. And he started a few games when Kelly was injured last year, if you remember. And he was actually top 5 in PFF. So that's a pretty cool consolation prize.
The Build-A-Bear thing is terrible, man. I mean, you've got a quarterback competition. It's like, why didn't you do like Tyler Warren? I mean, that's
you could have done so much better. You could have had small, extra large, large bears. You could have had Quentin Nelson, offensive lineman, on an extra large bear. You could have charged $20 for that. People would have bought it. And look, I don't think this concept by Build-A-Bear is horrible. Like, if you sold Build-A-Bears with Mahomes and Josh Allen on them, people would go to your mall. Your stock would quadruple. It would quadruple to the point where everyone's talking about Build-A-Bear, and then Jim Cramer mentions Build-A-Bear and the stock plummets. I'm kidding, but yeah.
All right. So, you mentioned
if they had marketed players like Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck or even some of the better players in the current Colts roster, this could have worked, but the execution sucked. And that's the big problem.
This is a classic case of what the media does to players by overhyping them.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I don't even know how.
Well, to be fair, the Colts were only competent under Jim Irsay. I think it's an ownership problem from the top down. It's too early to say that with Irsay's daughter taking over the team, but in the 80s, there were 2 owners that were like Woody Johnson and Dave Tepper, who were absolutely horrible. I'm not talking about Al Davis. Al Davis did suck in the 2000s, but in the 70s, he was legendary.
Right.
I'm talking about Robert Irsay and Art Modell. I would argue those are the 2 worst owners. If we were doing a Mount Rushmore of the worst owners in NFL history, I think Robert Irsay, before Jim took over the team, when the Colts were dog shit in the 80s and most of the 90s until Peyton arrived, and Art Modell, those would be my first 2 choices. And I don't think anyone would argue that. I think Joey would actually agree with me on that. But
oh yeah, yeah, possibly.
We were doing a Mount
Shot
Rushmore
number 1
owners in the NFL. Art Modell and Robert Irsay would be the top 2 choices, I think.
That it completely makes sense, man.
Because you look at what Robert Irsay did. He relocated the Baltimore Colts. Elway didn't want to play there. He told his GM to draft Elway anyway, and Elway still demanded a trade, and the Colts really didn't get much out of it. And then they drafted a bunch of other quarterbacks to the point where Mel Kiper is roasting them, and then the Colts GM goes, who the hell is Mel Kiper? So, yeah, the Colts were basically a punching bag for that entire 13-year period until they got Peyton Manning. That's the truth. Whether you like it or not, that is a sad reality. And it feels like the Colts are going back to that, William. It feels like the Colts are... I don't want them to go back to that. I don't want to wish that upon Irsay's kid who's taking over the team, okay? That's a horrible thing to wish on to anybody, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with the Colts in 2025. It's like, that's kind of what I'm getting. And Irsay's just like, oh, man, I wish my kid could do a little bit more. And then Robert Irsay's just laughing his ass off like Cotton from King of the Hill.
Yeah.
The Colts. I'm sorry, Colts fans. That's my impression of Robert Irsay.
Yeah.
Is that he is basically the real-life version of Cotton from King of the Hill. I know I'm horrible for saying that. But let's get back to training camp, William.
Yeah. And, this is a team that has a lot of talent. It really does. Jonathan Taylor.
The receivers look good. Josh Downs. I mean, Michael Pittman Jr. was injured, but he was still catching some balls on the sideline. But Downs showed up. Adonai Mitchell showed up. Ashton Doolin was taking first-team reps today. Warren was making some good plays. It looked like the running backs, all 3 of them stepped up. Herbert, number 3, DJ Giddens, and Jonathan Taylor. It looked like the running game really stepped up today. And Nelson was taking on a double team, and he wanted And it looked like the best rep I seen from Quentin Nelson when he was in his prime, dominating before he got that big extension. So I think Quentin Nelson is going to have a comeback here with the Colts. I do.
Yeah, and he definitely will. That's if Anthony Richardson doesn't hold on to the ball for 7 seconds.
Latu looked good. Latu won a quarterback hurry. Leatu Latu, their first-round pick out of UCLA last year. He won a quarterback hurry. Kwity Paye, their other first-round pick from 2021, the Micah Parsons draft. He jumped off sides on a play. And there's a clear reason why he's in the final year of that fifth-year rookie deal, and he hasn't been extended yet. Because if you're in that final year of that contract, you're still committing those offside penalties. You're not making a very compelling case to get that extension. Look, I like Paye. I think he could be a borderline starter somewhere else, but it's year 5. And in year 5, you have to step up and be the man. At that point,
Just decides
it is sad
up
because,
or down. But
I mean, that Colts camp was a disaster. I've watched sports movies where the team that goes through growing pains in the beginning was less of a disaster. Like the Water Boy before Bobby Boucher arrived. I would argue the Water Boy before Bobby Boucher arrived was more competent than the Colts camp today. And that's a freaking fictional sports movie. I should not be comparing those two things.
so I saw online earlier that it was in some fantasy group or something, and there were quite a few fans or fantasy managers,
I would
whatever
argue
you
the
want to call
cast
them.
of Blue Mountain State was more competent in the Colts practice, even though Thad Castle, when he went after on Randall's shoulder, took it a little too far. But I would argue the cast of Blue Mountain State was more competent at times than the Colts, than certain Colts players. Not everyone. I know there's some guys busting their ass to get paychecks.
Yeah, well, these fans thought, that Tyler Warren was going to absolutely, blow up like
I like Warren, but
Sam
I felt
Laporta.
like he had a lower ceiling than Pat Fryermuth. And I had a high-end starter grade on Fryermuth, but not a Pro Bowl grade on him. And with
I liked
Wilson
Fryermuth
Loveland,
a
we
lot
both had a
coming
Pro
out.
Bowl grade on him. So even if Loveland's floor is slightly lower than Warren's, we both knew his ceiling was much higher. And we both anticipated that.
Yeah. And that is one player. He is absolutely the best tight end, that I have ever evaluated. And like I said, I've talked about that on air.
That's why the Bears took him over Warren. Loveland actually had a higher ceiling than Warren coming out of the draft. I know Warren had the better floor, better production, better stats. I get that. But Loveland had the higher ceiling, and the Bears had their pick between both tight ends, and they took the guy with the higher ceiling. There's a reason for that.
Loveland is different because he is so precise in his movements and how he rolls. It's like, freaking.
And the Bears already had a
sports
tight end
car compared
as
to
a special tight end
some
in
of those
college
guys.
and Cole Met. Now they got 2 special tight ends in Met and Loveland, whereas the Colts, they've still got some stable tight ends. They've got a good core of tight ends, but they don't have a special tight end on their roster. That's really what separates the Bears from the Colts in 2025.
Well, and, Caleb.
Almost
Williams
20 years after the Colts' only Super Bowl win under Peyton Manning, so to speak. But yeah.
And Ben Johnson, completely,
Ben Johnson's
screaming.
an innovator too. He's like the Elon Musk of offensive coordinators, and I feel like that's an insult to Elon Musk. It might be an insult to Ben Johnson too, but he's innovative. That's my point.
Yeah, for real. And how he uses the tight end is just, I love it because that's what I do. It's, tight ends.
I agree. I mean, the tight ends are fun to scout. I mean, Charvarius Ward broke up a pass Richardson threw at Richardson was throwing a lot of underthrowing and overthrowing a lot of passes today. Mm-hmm. I know I picked the Colts to go 8-9 in my season preview. I'm not very confident that's going to happen. I will not be shocked if this team goes 0-17, but they are too talented to lose every game on their schedule. They have too many pieces going for them. Too many running back, offensive line, defensive line. They have too much going for them to be that bad.
I mean, the team has talent, and it just depends on how it's put together.
I agree.
But, they are tied to AR. That's why he will, likely get a few games. But, and like I said, I just see that because of they're tied to him. They drafted number 4 overall. That they got nothing into Daniel Jones isn't their thing, but Daniel Jones can run this offense so much cleaner than Anthony Richardson. I believe Richardson actually will likely be out of the league within a few years.
I joked that the Colts should trade for Kenny Pickett and make this 2-man QB competition a 3-man QB competition before I entered the camp.
I mean, why not? I mean, as long as Kenny, maybe get Kenny a smaller ball and he can, grip it right.
We have to get him like one of these tiny footballs. I'm sorry, Tanner Bortolini. Do we have to get Kenny Pickett like this tiny football sling?
From tiny little hands.
They were throwing footballs like this all throughout the crowd, and when the mascot came in, they booed the mascot. And it just, I think that's the most disrespectful thing you can do. I get it. The mascot's a piece of crap compared to the players. That's still not very nice. And I was making jokes about how I was making jokes about how Curtis Painter and Chandler Harnish were hiding under the mascot. And I'm surprised my friend did not remember who Curtis Painter was, because he started the year Manning was injured, and Chandler Harnish was the Mr. Irrelevant pick in the Andrew Luck draft from Northern Illinois. So he hardly played in the NFL. He was a great college QB, but he hardly played in the NFL. I could name the other players in that 2012 draft. I think they got a Stanford tight end. I think it was Colby Barlow, and they got Dwayne Allen, because I had Allen as my tight end 1 that year, and Barlow as my tight end 2. So I was like, yes, the Colts, they are back. They are so back. And I thought Hilton was a reach, and Hilton ended up being their best player from that draft outside of Luck. I think you could argue Hilton was their best player, because I think he played a year or 2 after Luck retired. So I think that argument has a little merit, but not a lot, if you know what I'm saying. A little merit, not a lot.
I stress anyone out there in fantasy, buy into Josh Downs. He
looks a lot cleaner on his routes today. I mean, out of all the receivers, the drill where you have to go through the you have to go through the squares. It's like a square drill. You have to go through the you have to avoid touching the lines on the square drill football. Josh Downs was the only receiver that was able to go through that route without touching any of the lines in like the square. It's like an agility drill, but there's squares and there's lines on the squares, and the players have to run through the squares without touching the lines. I don't know what the drill's called, but Downs was the only receiver that did that. Everyone else struggled to do that effectively on the entire team. So that feels like a red flag. I don't know if it is, but it feels like one. I might be overthinking this too.
Yeah. Yeah. Downs, when he played with Howell and when he played with May, the dude, every time the ball is snapped, he's got to step on everyone. I mean, it is absolutely unbelievable. That was May's first year starting, and obviously Sam Howell isn't, up to Drake May's, those are 2 completely different quarterbacks, and Downs did just as well with both of them, and he will do great with Daniel Jones. I mean,
yeah. I wasn't sure who the Colts were going to pay on the offense entering training camp. They did end up paying Bernard Raymond $25 million a year for 4 years, and Bernard Raymond was a player I had a first-round grade on. He fell to the 3rd round, and he was making hardly anything for 3 years. I could live with $25 million. I think it is an overpay. I think it is an overpay to a degree, but at the same time, you're going to lose him for nothing if you don't give him what he wants. That's just how the NFL is now.
Yeah, and you're seeing these receivers like, with
especially
my
if you're a team
Niners.
in a rebuild like a Colts.
Yeah. You know, the Niners, they have, all these wide receivers every year. Another one, wants to raise. It's like, dude, what? Okay, you have to practice your money, right? I fully believe in paying these athletes every bit that they deserve and then some, because they're the ones that make the sport, But you can't sit there and do that to your team and then get everybody, well, I want a new contract. I want a new contract, and then the media, it just, I don't know. Sometimes it gets a little bit out of sight, and that was something I saw with Debo out there in San Francisco.
Yeah. So the
But
other thing I did after Colts practice, because I was going to be at Bengals practice at Paycor Stadium, but then at first I was upset, but then I took a nap to cool off, and then I woke up from the nap and I realized we were in Columbus, and the person who organized the vacation decided, you know what, we'll go to Ohio State Stadium. So we took pictures of the stadium. I decided to do a Heisman pose next to Archie Griffin. I thought that was a cool selfie because it's like he's the only two-time Heisman winner in history. And I don't, when most people take selfies with like statues and stuff, they don't try to improvise or think, what's the perfect way to pose for this picture? Sometimes I do that. And that's what I did.
by the way, I do.
You do it too? Awesome. I love to hear that. So, yeah, I went to Ohio State. I mean, my friend wanted to get in the stadium for a tour without having to jump through any hoops, but I'm glad we just took pictures. We took pictures of the stadium and then we got out of there, because security can be a bitch if you overstay your welcome at a place where the security is really tight. So we had some fun, we took some pictures, and then we came back here. So yeah, I'd say that's a good day. I mean, Ohio State and Florida were my two favorite colleges growing up, and I got to visit one of them in person. So I will take that. Yeah, I sacrificed going to Bengals camp, but that's a small price to pay. I mean, the only benefit to going to Bengals camp is maybe actually getting a picture with someone on the Bengals. I know Bandel's a huge Bengals fan, so it's like, yeah, I could have made him jealous, but I'd rather celebrate my own team's success. I mean, Ohio State's the defending champions. We're playing Texas in the opener. We're playing Arch Manning. And yes, William, I am pumped for that game. I am. I am pumped for that game in a few weeks. 3 weeks from today, might be 4. It's August 30th, I believe. Yeah. Week 0, I believe, is 3 weeks from today. Week 1, I believe, is 4. I'm amazed I remember that. And I've got I got some notes. What else do you want to talk about from today preseason? Because I am going to pull up I'm going to pull up some of my group of 5 prospect notes for the NFL draft. Yeah, I do have the notes up for the 2026 NFL mock. I'll put them up on the website as soon as the show's over. The mock has a date of August 4th. The mock is a date of August 4th. So the mock will be up tomorrow and we'll promote it on Monday. So the mock draft for 2026 is pretty much done. Top 10 for the NHL mock is pretty much done as well. So we'll get all that. I'll get all that handled tonight. But I'm going to go through some of my Power 5 group of 5 prospects in college football, because I don't think everybody in the group of 5 is an NFL prospect. But I'll start with Conference USA. There are only 3 players I like in Conference USA, and they're on 2 different schools. This is going to be a shocker, but my dark horse to make the Conference USA title game is New Mexico State. They have a right outside linebacker / inside linebacker named Tyler Martinez. Probably my favorite linebacker in New Mexico since Urlacher, but not as good as him. And then Liberty has 2 guys that I think could develop into starters in Joseph Carter at middle linebacker and Brylan Green, a safety who can play both strong and free safety. So that's it for Conference USA.
Ooh, that was quick.
Yeah, it was quick. I mean, the MAC's going to be just as quick. I mean, I've got 3 players 3 players. I've got 1 player on Eastern Michigan, Mickey Rowlinski of Eastern Michigan left guard. Eastern Michigan is my number 3 team this year. I have 3 players on Buffalo. Remember, they had Sean Dolick last year, that middle linebacker with over 100 tackles for the second year in a row. I think he was an undrafted player or a late round pick. I like Sean Dolick, but they've got a Red Murdoch, a guy who played outside linebacker who's moving to middle. I have a 90 grade on him. He is the first player. I think there's a few players. I think there were 3 players in Buffalo that I gave Pro Bowl grades to, and they were all defensive players. One was Khaled Hodges, the former Buffalo middle linebacker. The other was Khalil Mack, the Raiders pick, and the other was Red Murdoch. I like the Buffalo edge rusher in the 2021 draft, but I didn't view him as a Pro Bowler. I didn't view him as a guy who could be anything special. And they also have an edge rusher in Kobe Stewart to play right end, 34 right outside linebacker, and Al J. Harrison, their running back. Probably Buffalo's best running back since James Starks. And the other team to watch is Toledo. They have a strong safety, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I have a 90 grade on him out of 99, and Junior Vandeross, the third, a wide receiver out of Toledo. And Toledo is Tom Luganville's sleeper pick to make the playoff as a group of 5. So, but I disagree with Tom Luganville here. I have Buffalo beating Toledo to win the MAC this year. The Buffalo Bulls are my dark horse pick to come out of the MAC. So I previewed 2 conferences. I mean, yeah. Sunbelt, we got 6 players in the 6 different teams with a good player in the Sunbelt. There are more dark horses in the Sunbelt. But yeah, do you want to bring up the MAC or the Conference USA for a second before I get to the Sunbelt, William? Is there anybody else I need to take a closer look at that I probably should be looking a little bit more into? I'll just go to the Sunbelt.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. I don't have any prospects on Louisiana Monroe, Troy, Marshall, Georgia State, or Coastal Carolina, or App State. First prospect I have in the Sunbelt is Arkansas State wide receiver Corey Rucker.
Corey Rucker.
Yeah, he's a wide receiver. I think there might be one player out of this who comes into this and is a high-end starter or Pro Bowler, and that's a guy we talked about last year, but I'll get to him later. My favorite player on South Alabama, they have one prospect I like. That's Kendrell Bullock, the running back. Kendrell Bullock. And South Alabama's had some good talent in recent years, but the problem is they can't maintain it because as soon as South Alabama has an 8-win season, all their stars enter the portal and the Power 5 schools pick them up. The Power 4 schools pick them up, That's the problem. And it's not South Alabama. It's just the way college football is wired now. My favorite player on Southern, I do have one prospect on Southern Miss to watch, Josh Motton, a corner from Southern Miss. I gave him an 89. He's my second highest graded player in the entire conference. The only player that I think could be a Pro Bowler from the Sun Belt is Jason Henderson. Remember, he was a guy we were both super high on last year, and then he had the season-ending injury in the opener, and he was just never the same after that. I mean, last year Henderson was a weak side linebacker. This year he's going to be a Mike and a 34 linebacker. So Henderson, if he could blossom into that plug-and-play linebacker, he could end up being one of the steals in this draft. And then I've got 2 guys on Georgia Southern, the Georgia Southern Eagles, Josh Dallas at wide receiver and Pecan Wembley at left guard. But my pick to come out on top of the Mountain West, not the Mountain West. We'll get to the Mountain West next, but my Sun Belt pick, James Madison, Alonzo Barrett, Ego Ayeti at running back, Barrett at quarterback. They've got Pat McMurdy at right tackle and Jacob Thomas at safety. He can play both safety roles. So James Madison's my pick to come out of this thing. I have them beating, and since the Sun Belt's the only conference that does the West and East divisions like the old SEC before the playoff 12 team, I have James Madison over Southern Miss. That is my Sun Belt title game, and it's not very exciting. Look, to be fair to the Sun Belt, there's more it's kind of a mosh pit, and there's more excitement there than there is in Conference USA or the MAC. So I'll give the Sun Belt credit in that respect. And yeah, it's become a Power 4 conference in men's college soccer. So the Sun Belt has that going for it too. And,
Well, I mean, the
what's sad,
preseason
William,
awards
is
and
if a team like Clemson goes to the SEC for football, they're going to go to the Sun Belt for college soccer because they'll no longer be a part of the ACC. And the ACC is basically the powerhouse conference in soccer, both men's and women's. So the ACC imploding does have a ripple effect on other sports in the within the conference, because ACC is still a powerhouse in basketball, baseball, soccer. It's not really a pro hockey, but that's not the point. We'll get to the Mountain West here. I do have a lot of sleepers on the Mountain West teams. I'm sure you're a little bit excited about this. Not stoked, but I think there's a lot more parity in the Mountain West. I would argue the Mountain West is the most competitive group of 5 conference right now, outside of the AAC. The AAC and the Mountain West are really the only competitive group of 5 conferences where there's multiple NFL players in each team. Like each team has one NFL player. We'll start with Wyoming. They have a tight end, John Michael Gillenborg. No relation to Jake Gyllenhaal. John Michael Gillenborg, he is a tight end on Wyoming. So I know you love tight ends, William, so we are going to start with a tight end. John Michael Gillenborg, Wyoming tight end. Might be a name to watch. Probably my favorite Wyoming tight end since Tanner Hudson. I believe he was a Bengals player out of Wyoming. So, yeah. Gillenborg is a guy to watch for this draft cycle on Wyoming. Trey White, San Diego State edge rusher. I have him going to the Detroit Lions in my current mock draft set to come out on Monday in the first round at pick 31. So I do have a first round grade on San Diego State's Trey White. He's a group of 5 player that I am super high on. My mom's calling. I'm going to have to text her.
when my mom calls me, I don't answer it, and then she leaves like these super long voicemails.
Well, I always answer my mom's calls when I'm not on the air, but when I'm on the air, I never answer them.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, my mom ever calls me when we're on air. I'm going to put
be
her
fair,
on air.
my mom did not know I was going to do a stream this late because I never stream this late.
Right.
Unless it's under the bleachers, it's NFL season, but it's like we wanted to do a show about Colts Camp. I'm just giving you guys some of the group of 5 players to watch because it's like we're not going to have time to preview 2 NFL divisions and a Power 4 division in college next week. So I'm doing my best to get all the group of 5 players out of the way now. So that's less pressure on Joey and less pressure on William. They can just be themselves and we can get through some stuff quicker. That's why I'm doing this group of 5 stuff today. A player on Fresno State I like is Alzillian Hamilton. That's his first name, Alzillian. A-L Zillion, and then his last name's Hamilton, and he's a corner on Fresno State. Alzillian Hamilton. Yeah, he's a senior. He's draft eligible. I think he's a dark horse to make the Senior Bowl this year. Alzillian. You're going to have to pay him Alzillion dollars if he dominates during his rookie contract. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Oh,
the first name set me up for that joke. It's a terrible joke, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of a corny joke, but I'm glad you laughed. It makes me feel a little bit better. Sometimes corny jokes are funny if they're timed well.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Colorado State, they do have one prospect with a NFL starter grade. It's Braden Fowler Nicolosi. I do not think he will be an NFL starter. He has the ceiling to develop into one, but you're looking at him being maybe like a Michael Pratt type player you could get in the 7th round of this draft. That's who's got a really good floor if you develop him, but I had the same grade on Michael Pratt that I had Mac Jones. What does that say? Fowler Nicolos, he's probably that type of backup that you can get in round 7. Maybe he develops into a starter. even if he does, he won't be as good as Purdy. I'll say that much. He won't be as good as Purdy. But yeah, Braden Fowler, Nicolosi, he was the quarterback at Colorado State. Him and Torrey Horton were the two guys on that, Rams team last year that people,
Running with the ones in Seattle, I just saw.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
think there are two legitimate challengers to Boise State in this conference. I know Air Force has the most NFL prospects outside of Boise, but they don't have a player who I have a first-round grade on like Trey White or a player with Pro Bowl upside. But they got four guys that could develop into starters. They've got Dylan Carson at fullback, Cade Harris, a running back / gadget wide receiver like Antonio Gibson, Peyton Zadroik, a defensive tackle that can play 34 defensive end in every role, and their center Clarence Cooley. So Air Force does have some talent this year. They've got the most NFL prospects of any Mountain West team outside of Boise State. UNLV has Jaden Thomas. They did lose Ricky White at running back, and they lost their quarterback to USC in the portal. And their backup the quarterback that was originally there, Sluka, he transferred too. So UNLV, I think they're in a rebuild this year. But I did give Jaden Thomas, the running back, at 89 for potential grade. I don't think he reaches that potential, but we'll see. San Jose State's best player is a running back, Floyd Chalk the fourth. That's his full name. But yeah, I've got an 85 on him. And then Boise State, I've got Matt Lauder, the tight end, 89 for potential grade. I think he's probably my fifth or sixth best tight end for the draft this year, Matt Lauder. I don't think he's in the same tier as guys like Eli Stovers, Tanner Kolzik, Max Clark, guys you scouted for months now. I don't think he's in that tier, but I think he might be a tier or two below that, maybe 2 tiers below that. Maybe a good bargain in the 4th round. I like him more than the Boise State tight end the Commanders took a 4th round pick on back in 2021. I'll say that much. Cage Casey, the left tackle. Cage Casey was a player we mentioned last year. When we were previewing Boise last summer, we talked about 3 guys. We talked about Cage Casey, Ahmad Hassanein, the Lions 5th round pick, and we talked about Ginty. I believe those are the 3 we mentioned on both I think we mentioned them on Draft Utopia. We mentioned them on 100 Yards of Football, and we mentioned them on Under the Bleachers, I believe, William, if I'm not mistaken. All 3 last year.
Yeah. We were, yeah.
Yeah. So Casey, we met. They also have Ty Benfield, Marion McCoy at corner. They've got Jaden Vergen Morgan, the other defensive end that played next to Amon Hassanein on the other side. Hassanein was the left end. Virgin Morgan's the right end. And then Braxton Felly, he's a defensive tackle that can play 34 defensive end. He was my Mountain West championship is Boise State over San Diego State, but I will not be surprised if it's Air Force. I'll not be surprised if it's UNLV again. I'll not be surprised if it's San Jose State. Heck, if Colorado State's quarterback can kick ass without Torrey Horton, they could be a dark horse too. Fresno State's been a very consistent team in this conference. It does feel wide open after it's Boise State versus the team that's most likely to get their ass kicked by Boise State. That's basically where the Mountain West is now.
This is Boise State is an experienced team. I'll say that. Some of these guys have been it's their 5th or 6th or 7th season. I mean, it's a very experienced team.
Yeah.
And they should probably repeat as champions again. Yeah. I will just say that, but
I just thought it was laughable how, not laughable in a bad way. I'm thinking of something that happened this morning at breakfast. They only had 8 biscuits at the Holiday Inn Hotel this morning in Indianapolis before Colts practice, and I thought, you know what? The best way to save time is to grab one of those biscuits and put some scrambled eggs in the biscuit. And it's like I have my own customizable egg sandwich courtesy of the hotel. And they only had 8 biscuits on display when I first got there at 6:30. And by the time I grabbed the 2 biscuits, there were only 3 left. Like, whose idea was it to only cook 8 biscuits for every tenant in the hotel? That's almost as bad as the Colts Build-A-Bear experiment. Like, if you've got 100, 200 guests in a Holiday Inn and you only make 8 biscuits and 5 of them are gone within the first 5 minutes, that is a fail on your end. Because you didn't account for the fact that there was going to be a demand for biscuits.
That's the kind of thing that causes rifts in teams. Like what? I mean, some of
I'm
these
not
teams
trying to
that have gone
disrespect
through it
Holiday
lately.
Inn, but it's like if you only make 8 biscuits for 100, 200 tenants in a hotel, basically if you're not there in the first 5 minutes and there's only 3 biscuits left, it's pretty much a rat race for those last 3 biscuits, basically.
More for me. I just, I mean.
They like if we were running a hotel chain, I would make sure we had at least 40 or 50, 5 trays of 8 biscuits. So there's at least 40 biscuits for the breakfast tenants. And then we pay the cooks extra if they can make more. That's basically how you operate. Because you have to account for what is coming off what the customers are ordering the most of. But yeah, let's get back to football. What other conferences do I have to preview in the next? We only have 3 more non-Power 5 conferences. Goody. Okay. Charlotte, Rice, Florida Atlantic, East Carolina, North Texas. There's nobody on your teams that impressed me. Temple has a running back named Jay Ducker. It is their best running back since Bernard Pierce back in 2012. And Temple used to be a running back in the day. Temple used to be a running back factory back in the day. They had the Chiefs drafted a running back out of Temple in the first round of the 1989 draft, okay? But what's funny is Temple has not had a running back drafted since Bernard Pierce in 2012, and they had a guy drafted in the 7th round of the 2019 draft that I went to in Jacksonville with Joey, but that guy got cut by the Cardinals as a rookie, so I'm not counting him. He got picked in the 7th round by the Arizona Cardinals, and you got cut. So you do not count. I mean, we're happy you got drafted, made the NFL, but I'm not counting that as a running back that was like a high-profile star in college because I'm pretty sure neither Joey or myself had that guy getting drafted. So we're happy for you, but we're not counting him as a star. Like Bernard Pierce was a legit star. Everybody knew who he was back in 2011. Everybody knew who Bernard Pierce was who watched college football in 2011. He was the running back at Temple. So this is Temple's best running back. Jay Ducker, he's Temple's best running back since Pierce. UAB's quarterback is Jalen Kitna, John Kitna's son, the guy who got expelled from Florida a few years ago. That he enrolled in UNLV. His charges were reduced, and he enrolled in UAB, and Trent Dilfer gave him a second chance. UAB is projected to finish in the bottom 4 of this conference. Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, UAB is my dark horse pick to make the AAC championship this season. I don't have them winning. I expect the team that makes it to rout them, but they are my dark horse feel-good story. They are my dark horse feel-good story. Look, if you're going to get there, but you're just going to get freaking mopped. If you finish in the bottom 4 of your conference, and if you're projected to finish bottom 4 in the preseason and you make the conference championship, that's a win, in my opinion. If you're projected to finish bottom 4 in your conference and you get all the way to the conference title game, that's a really good season. That's like, it is. For a smaller school, that's a really good season. But yeah, Jalen Kitna is UAB's best player. Army has 2 players I like. They have Hayden Reed. I'm not sure what position Hayden Reed is. And they have Brady Small, a center, who I think could develop into a Pro Bowler. And Navy has Blake Horvath at quarterback. He is the highest rated player in the conference outside of Brady Small, Blake Horvath. They also have Eli Heidenreich at running back. Oh, yeah, Army's starting running back transferred to Arizona State. He's taken over for Cam Scatibo. So Army's powerhouse running back from last year during their 10-0 season, which we discussed on Under the Bleachers, now in Arizona State. So we could preview that next week. I don't know what conference we're going to preview yet. We'll see. What I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to ask Joey and William what 8 divisions, rank the divisions from 1 to 8. What division are you the most excited versus the least excited? We could also do NFC West and AFC West, because usually we start with the AFC North and the NFC North, but since both of my Super Bowl picks are in that division, I'm thinking we'll do that division last this year. Plus, William's a 49ers fan, and the Denver Broncos are the closest team to him. So if we started with the AFC and NFC West this year, we could make things a little bit more interesting, but we'll see. Nothing's been etched in stone yet. Horvath, Heidenreich, and Texa, the Navy fullback, are all guys. South Florida has one player, Jalen Schuler. I had a backup grade on him, but yeah, I guess he's decent. Tulane has Derek Graham, a left tackle I really like. And they also have Maurice Westmoreland, a right end / edge rusher. So they have an edge rusher and a left tackle I really like on Tulane. If the quarterback play, their quarterback transferred. Tulane's quarterback transferred to another school. I think he may have transferred to Memphis. I don't know. But Tulane's starting quarterback went elsewhere. I don't remember where he went specifically, William. But their starting quarterback did transfer.
That was Pratt's team. But, that guy, just saying.
I only have 2 teams left to preview in this conference anyway, but I'll mention one of them is the preseason favorite to win the conference, Memphis, team we talked about on 100 Yards of Football in addition to Under the Bleachers the last year. And the other team is UTSA, which is the team I'm actually going to pick to win the conference. Owen McCown just dominated last year. Like, Frank Harris was a guy Joey and I mentioned for 2 to 3 years at UTSA. And then Josh McCown's son, Owen, comes in, takes the job from Frank Harris as a freshman redshirt, throws for 3,468 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I have an 85, which is on Owen McCown right now, and he's a sophomore redshirt. That's the same grade I had on Mac Jones. But here's the thing. I do have Owen McCown in the first round of my 2027 mock. Not the one that's set to come out this week, but the mock I'm doing immediately following that. And here's a kicker. Joey's QB1 for 2027 is not Arch Manning. It is Owen McCown. So Joey's higher on Owen McCown than I am, by the way. Like, Joey thinks Owen McCown could go number 1 in the entire draft. And I know you're beginning to think that's crazy, right? But
Well, you know, like
it
I
would
said,
be a great story. We haven't seen a group of 5 quarterback go number 1 since David Carr, I think.
well, if he
Bortles too.
if he shows out like that,
Bortles went
I
third.
mean, if he shows out like that, he's going to be at another school. You know, I mean,
I'm surprised nobody picked him up in
Likely.
the portal. I really am. I'm surprised nobody tried to get him in the portal because he was the backup to Shadur Sanders in Colorado, and Shadur basically told him, look, Owen, you're a nice guy, but as long as my boy is here, he's going to play over you.
right. I remember that deal. But, you know, this is the kid, like I've talked about before, you know, that has been raised, you know, for this position. You know, I mean, that's all. And I like Josh McCown, Luke
I think
McCown,
Owen
you know,
McCown can't
both
be better than Josh.
long-time
But we'll
backups.
see. Like, you know, and this is the thing. If Owen McCown dominates and J.J. McCarthy struggles, Josh McCown's on the Vikings. He's the quarterback coach. Just saying, William. Not saying he's going to get replaced. Not saying he's going to
I'm
replace
excited to
McCarthy,
see him
but
start. I am excited to see him start.
UTSA is going to be
Put
a
it
fun
that way.
team to watch. And
Yeah.
I have them beating UAB. And the final and the other player in UTSA I like is their running back, Robert Henry Jr. He is my favorite running back at UTSA since Sincere McCormick. So I think UTSA is going to be a really fun team to watch, not only on the air, but in the ground. And then Memphis has a strong safety named Kamari Wilson. They are the preseason favorite to win the conference, but my prediction is UTSA over UAB. Josh McCown's kid over John Kitna's kid. That is my prediction.
I like it.
And look,
Good
if
stuff.
John Kitna's kid goes from being expelled from Florida to getting to the AAC Conference Championship game, he'll get a camp invite. May not get drafted because of the incident at Florida, but he'll get like a camp invite or something. He'll get an opportunity to compete for like a camp invite or something, or a roster spot. I don't know if he'll get one, but he'll get an opportunity to compete for something, William. You know, that's how it is. When you show people you've matured, that's how opportunities work. But how many more? We got 6 minutes. Do we have, what's the last conference? We've got the Pac-12 and the Independent. Pac-12's 2 teams, Independent's 3 teams, and we got 6 minutes. And luckily, I don't have any prospects on Washington State. If you think there's a player on Washington State I need to keep an eye on, feel free to interject. I've got 2 prospects on Oregon State. Anthony Hankerson, their running back. I've got a 91 on him, and Trent Walker, the wide receiver. I wish Coburn was here, Thomas Coburn. He's a huge Oregon State, Missouri fan. I'm sure he would tell me there's some other players in Oregon State I'm not looking at closely enough right now, but I'm looking at Hankerson and Walker as the 2 main guys in the Beavers. And really, Washington State's best player last year was Kyle Williams, and before that, it was Cam Ward. So I think Washington State's going through a little bit of a rebuild themselves. Independent. There's a few independent schools. UMass does not have anybody and that's any good. I'm not going to acknowledge UMass. Connecticut has 1 player I like. Skylar Bell. He's a wide receiver. And Notre Dame's got a few players I like. Jeremiah Love, Malachi Fields, Will Pauling, Jarek Bowen, the middle linebacker, who I have a 90 on for upside, and Fields. Notre Dame's got some talented players. And they've got a lot of offensive linemen returning. CJ Carr's going to start as a sophomore redshirt. And Notre Dame is Phil Steele's dark horse pick to make the national title and play Penn State. I don't know if they're that good, but we'll find out. If they can go into Miami and beat Carson Beck and the Hurricanes at Hard Rock Cafe Stadium, I think they do have a chance to go unbeaten in the regular season, because I think that Miami game is the hardest game on their entire schedule. But we said the same thing last year, and then they laid an egg against Northern Illinois after they beat Texas A&M in Kyle Field. They laid an egg against Northern Illinois, so...
I remember that one well.
Does Notre Dame have any power group of 5 opponents this season? They get Boise State, so at Miami versus Texas A&M versus Purdue, at Arkansas. They got to go to Arkansas on the road. That could be an upset if they don't lose to Miami. They play Boise at home. The group of 5 team they play at home is Boise State. They play Navy, who has the best quarterback in the AAC outside of Owen McCown at home. I think their schedule's a lot tougher than they're getting. I think Notre Dame's schedule's harder this year than last year, as bold as that claim sounds, because you got to play Boise, you got to play Navy, who might be arguably the 2 best group of 5 teams this year. And you got to play the Hurricanes, and you go to Arkansas on the road. Like, that's a very tough schedule for Notre Dame. I could see them going 10-2 with this schedule if they slip up in any of those 4 games I mentioned. But they could also go 12-0 and be the number 2 or 3 seed, maybe the 5 seed in the playoff. We'll see. Okay, it's 7:57. Wow. I've covered every single group of 5 team. Next Saturday, we will be back. And what conference? So we'll do AFC West and NFC West. I think it's just good to mix it up. Like, we could do AFC South, NFC South too, but like, I just think it's good to mix it up. If we do AFC North, NFC North again for the 3rd year in a row as the season premiere on Talk Show, it's just gonna get kind of repetitive. And I think we're at a point where we should mix it up, you know?
Yeah.
And I know the AFC West and NFC West, those are the 2 divisions you're the most familiar with, because you got the Broncos with Bo Nix, you got their division rivals, and you got Brock Purdy, and you're a Niners fan, so it's very easy for you. And then what conference? I'm looking at my conference predictions. My big upset is in the Big 12. My big upset is in the Big 12 this year. So my upset prediction for Big 12 champion is in the Big 12. Do we start with that, or do we save that for a later, because I think the Big 10 and SEC should come last. But,
okay,
because those are the 2 best conferences. ACC is kind of a repetitive version. I don't think there's been much turnover in the ACC, if I'm being honest, and we opened up with the ACC last year. So I'm trying to think, what, in your personal opinion, we got 2 minutes left, what Power 4 conference would you open with next week? Of the 4 that we have, the SEC, the Big 10, the ACC, and the Big 12. What's your 4?
Well, I don't know. Do we want to start big, or do we want to end big?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know,
I
I
think
think
the SEC and the Big 12 are the two hardest to predict. I think the
okay,
ACC is the easiest, but it's also the blandest.
yeah,
We started with ACC last year. Do we want to do Big
yeah,
10? We could tell Joey about my trip to Ohio State, and we could just get into that. Wes is a huge Michigan fan. He's at Bristol Motor Speedway tonight for the Reds Braves game on Fox. So, I
that'll
mean,
work.
there's a lot of good stuff. And Penn State has 9 players with Pro Bowl grades in this year's NFL draft. I think you have to go back to Texas 2005 or USC 2004 to find a team that rivals Penn State in that category. And you have to go back to Miami Hurricanes to find a team that surpasses Penn State in that department.
Yeah,
So it's very hard to find a team with 9 Pro Bowlers, 9 guys who could be potential NFL Pro Bowlers on one college football team. That's hard to do. Okay? So,
you know, this is a
and it pains me to say this as a Buckeyes fan because I'm happy we won the title. I'm even happier I got to take a photo with Archie Griffin. I texted you that earlier before we
Oh,
went
yeah.
on the air. But, like, yeah,
yeah.
it's just
Well,
Penn State just looks stacked this year.
yeah, I like it.
I don't know if anybody can beat them, but we can open up with that next week, the Big Ten Conference, and then I'll let you and Joey pick a conference, and whatever conference. I think we should save the SEC for the end. I do, because I think that's the hardest to predict, and I think that's the conference the most fans in college football give a crap about. So
Yeah,
that's why I say we save that for the end.
yeah, that's for real. I agree. Open with the Big Ten and end with the SEC.
Because I wouldn't open with the Big Ten normally, but because I went to Ohio State, I just think it's perfect. We got a lot of people kind of torn. Oh, and I do have a team playing Penn State in the Big Ten championship, and you will never guess who it is. You'll never guess. You have to wait till next week, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Big Ten, AFC West, and NFC West previews are next week. We'll get a thumbnail for either Penn State. We'll have a poll question scouting college football. We'll give our audience a choice between Penn State, Ohio State with me at the Horseshoe. I might actually use the photo of me at the Horseshoe with Archie Griffin as the thumbnail for next week. I haven't made that official yet, but I'll put that in the running, and then we'll have the AFC West division and the NFC West division. And for the AFC West, I think we either use the coaches or the quarterbacks or both. And then for the NFC West, I really don't know. Maybe we go with the running backs. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh yeah, that's
because the
definitely
NFC
interesting.
West, you have James Conner, you have McCaffrey, you have Kyron Williams, and you have Kenneth Walker. So I think if we did an NFC West thumbnail, instead of going with the quarterbacks, I think we'd be better off going with the running backs.
Agreed. You know what I hate is of all the teams in the NFL, it's always the Niners NFC West rivals that get the players that I love. You know,
Well, to be fair, I
Trey
have the
McBride,
Rams and Niners in the wild
Jalen
card, and I've
Milroe,
got your Niners winning after getting swept by the
Zach
Rams in the
Charbonnet.
regular season. I got your Niners beating the Rams. I don't think the Niners are a complete team on paper. The problem is they have the easiest strength of schedule in the league. They have the easiest strength of schedule in the entire damn league, and I just can't see them missing the playoffs with that schedule as long as everyone stays healthy.
Yeah, that's actually for real.
They might miss the playoffs in 26-27, but with that schedule, they're probably going to make the playoffs. With the schedule they have this year, they're probably going to get at least one game in January. I think they could get 2 if they draw the right opponent in wild card week.
I was watching film, and I feel that Jordan James is just, I'm still watching that dude, and he's just got some pop to him, and he's so much better than Guerrero. Guerrero, you know, is big and fast on paper, but he doesn't run like it on the field. And
yeah, and for everyone talking about how spectacular Tyler's show is, look, Miller Moss left USC and transferred to Louisville. He beat Garrett Nussmeier mano a mano last year. Yeah, his season ended on a sour note for the Trojans, but he beat Nussmeier in the opener, and he earned his stripes. He earned his love. He earned his respect. So, you know, I think Miller Moss is going to have a better season at Louisville than I think he's going to have a better season at Louisville than Tyler Show did. That's not.
I feel that was way too high to pick him. He intrigued me.
I'm not
A
saying
few
Show's going to
times
be
he
terrible in
flashed.
the NFL, but I just thought that was too early to pick him in the draft. Where he got picked, that was a little too early.
Spencer Rattler is night and day.
The first thing I heard out of Saints training camp is Kellen Moore has a pitching rotation of quarterbacks where he plays first down, he plays Tyler Show. Second down, he plays Spencer Rattler. Third down, he plays Jake Haener. That was the first. That's what the Saints did on the first day of training camp this year. Look, there's a reason New Orleans didn't get an MLB expansion team. Stop trying to turn the Saints into a baseball attraction, Kellen Moore. It's just. It's not a good look for your first NFL head coaching stint. And it's just laughably bad. Like, if the Browns did this, they would be the butt of all jokes in the league. If they did this exact thing and they said, you know what, we're going to play Schnur, but we're only going to play him on fourth and short when we don't want to punt it. That's the. And that might work for a while because everyone would think Schnur's running a wildcat, and then they'd be able to get away with a few plays.
Browns and what they do at quarterback, they might as well do that because they're not doing something right. And they need to change something.
Yeah, Joey's going to grill you whenever we do the Browns preview but hey, it's my idea because it's like I'm talking about how the Saints, first day of camp, they had each quarterback play first, second, third down. It's very unorthodox and it's not an effective way of doing business. It's just laughably bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
You might have to get the South out of the way. AFC and NFC South, that'll be the second show because it's just two brutally bad divisions. The Colts, the Build-A-Bear, the Saints with their quarterbacks, the Panthers with Bryce Young, Dave Tepper. I mean...
Yeah. That was... I really hope that Bryce Young develops for them.
I do too, because right now... Charlotte FC is hosting the 2026 MLS All-Star Game, which means Dave Tepper got an All-Star Game. Bryce Young has to make the playoffs next year. I don't want to go into 2026 thinking that Dave Tepper got an MLS All-Star Game before Bryce Young got a playoff appearance. That's really going to break my heart as a football fan.
Guess who's back? Back again. That's actually what I named Bryce Young's valuation that I did on him. That was the title.
There's
the second one was Guess Who's Back.
2027 NFL draft from Notre Dame named Bryce Young. I'm not kidding you. There's a Bryce Young on Notre Dame. He's a defensive tackle. He's a 2027 first to second round pick. I didn't put him in my 27 mock, but there is a guy named Bryce Young on Notre Dame's defensive line.
Oh, so it's going to be like
so if the Panthers draft that Bryce Young, they could have a Bryce Young on offense and defense. It's like when Nebraska had a corner named Lamar Jackson. Nebraska had a corner named Lamar Jackson. I think the Browns drafted him. So you had Lamar Jackson on offense and you had Lamar Jackson on defense. It was super confusing.
Like 3 Kobe Bryants or something?
Luckily, the defensive version of Lamar Jackson's out of the league. Don't have to avoid that confusion, but now we're going to have that with Bryce Young. We're going to have that with Bryce Young, whether we like it or not, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have it. It is what it is.
Depends on how long he sticks around. Maybe he stays a backup and maybe he develops, maybe he doesn't.
Yeah.
I actually was pretty hard on him when I did his, and it was bad. I had a undraftable grade on him. I ended up feeling kind of like I ended up with a 3rd round pick on my final, but I feel that maybe that was one of my ones that I shouldn't have gone so high on. But, like I said, I wish him the best, the Carolina Panthers the best, and Oh yeah, we were speaking about Josh McCown earlier, and that ripped and everything.
Yeah. I mean, Owen McCown is. I remember Josh McCown's play. The 2003 season. Josh McCown. I don't even think Owen McCown was born at the time, but Josh McCown 2003 season. I was at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Florida. They had a popcorn machine, like where you could get popcorn in the lobby. And I remember watching Cardinals Vikings. It was a game where McCown knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs. That was before social media existed. Could you imagine if that game was on television in the Twitter era? I mean, that would be like the #1 story on X. If Twitter was around. I don't even think Facebook was around then. You had MySpace, but that's about it. You had MySpace and Friendster. But they both those companies folded. I'm not going to get into a rant about that, but yeah, both those companies folded. But I think those were the only two online social media services in 2003, MySpace and Friendster. Yeah, but that is the first season 15 episode. I can't believe I made a Friendster reference on frickin' season 15. What the hell is wrong with me?
Hey, man.
At least I didn't make a LimeWire or Napster joke, okay? I'll take it. Yeah, so we'll be back next week. It's going to be Big Ten, AFC West, NFC West. Yeah. All right, so that will be the order we go in. And yeah, the Micah Parsons stuff's getting spicy, but we're signing off. We'll see you guys next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, live on Restream, TalkShoe, Kick, Twit, X, Facebook, YouTube, and now our newest partner, Rumble, where I upload my college football game films. You can now catch our shows live on Rumble. So make sure to go to Draft Utopia Rumble and check us out. I'm Chris Ransom.